So where do you see the separation, the overlap, the sort of dividing line, if there even is a clear dividing line between clouds, colos like Rackspace, and edge?
That's a really good question. So, and I'm going to answer that one in light of my last meeting. So every quarter, Rackspace goes out and we fund this research study. We ask over 1,400 IT decision makers in 10 different countries a bunch of questions. Each quarter has a different theme. And the one we just are getting the data back on right now is it's pretty broad spectrum, but it's allowing us to then write a white paper that is really 2024 outlook based on what happened in the trends in 23. This is what we think 24 is going to look like. And there was a question in there. Of course, we asked questions about, what percentage of your infrastructure is in public cloud today or in 12 months? How much is in private cloud today or 12 months? And then edge, we asked the edge question. And so we see, interestingly enough, edge has, in my experience in the past, in fact, we used to, several years ago, we kept a quarterly sort of outlook of things and what are the buzzwords that don't mean anything. And edge at the time, 3-4 years ago, didn't have a lot of teeth. But now we see significant numbers of people making the move publicly and talking about how, quote unquote, edge is a part of their future in the next 12 months. Now we're seeing other big trends, the macro trends is, sorry, I have to do the math in my head of what the right word is, are people going to public cloud or are they going to private cloud? The answer is yes. What they're not doing is figuring out how to build newer, cooler data centers that they can live in. No one wants to run a data center. In 2024, I used to say this in 23, but especially in 2024, nobody in their right mind has any business running their own data center. At least Colos something. There are people who do this professionally and keep it safe and secure, but there are just better ways to do it. Unless, of course, you're running small rooms that help you get that data, get that compute as close to the customer or the user as possible. Some might call that edge.
Okay. So I kind of threw two questions at you at the same time, which is a little bit unfair. Cloud versus colo versus edge. But colo is how you host it. Cloud versus edge is kind of more the locality and the type of use. And so I thought maybe I'd sort of clarify myself there so that I'm not asking you to answer, apples and oranges. So,
we think about, we should add one more into there. We'll call it on premises. Then we'll talk about co-location. We'll talk about managed hosting. We'll talk about public cloud, and then talk about edge. Of course, on premises is wherever inside of this company's own building they're putting their servers, be it a broom closet, be it a great data center. On premises, it's on their premises. Co-location, it means they're going into an environment that is a professional building they have to pay to be a part of. They are paying for cement on the floor. They're paying for a cage around their stuff. They're paying for internet access. They're paying for cooling. And they still have to manage all of the things inside of that cage, but the networking, the servers, the storage, all of the stuff. Then you get into managed hosting, company like Rackspace. There are others. And they are going to do all of the things that an edge might do, but they're also going to provide the servers. They're also going to manage those servers usually up to about the operating system. There's usually independent services that can be consumed after that, but at a broad brush, that's managed hosting. I always define it for Rackspace is we have data centers, we have servers, and we have smart people, and we're for hire. And then, and those workloads tend to be single tenant, meaning you are not sharing anything other than the air in the building. And then you have public cloud being AWS, Azure, Google as the major hyperscaler providers. You're running on shared infrastructure, and you're running on the opportunity to run 1 million different services that they would make available to you. It's one of the blessings and the curse of the hyperscaler is that it's like the ultimate Swiss Army knife. They've got it all there. You just have to figure out which pieces you need to put together in the right environment. And then you have the extension. What happens after that? Well, that goes to edge. And that's how do you take these aspects of those workloads, regardless of where they run. And I defined it sort of earlier as geography. How do I get it closer to a customer, to a user, to the person who's consuming that tech? It can be, oftentimes it's a microcosm or micro aspect of what that application actually is, or the data set, but it's getting it closer to the individual. And it could be single-tenanted stuff. It could be multi-tenant stuff. It could be technology that comes from a hyperscaler. Think of AWS Outpost. Think of Azure Stack and the evolution thereof. But the point is it's not on-prem. It's not dedicated full stack and running inside of somebody else's data center or in public cloud. It's other.
Which kind of exposes all the messiness of it, right? There's on-prem versus off-prem, and it's not as clear as it was. It used to be, you run your data center or someone runs your cloud. It's managed versus self-managed. It's bare metal versus a full infrastructure stack, or anything in between. And it's CapEx versus OpEx versus full usage-based as a service.
Yes.
You have all these different permutations. And so it's more about defining the use case and the latency and the size footprint and things like that, and then coming up with something that'll match that, which means you have to know more about what the workload does and what characteristics you need it to meet, and then pick the technology, as opposed to we're all data center, we're all cloud, that anything first mindset, edge first, cloud first, data center first. That's all sort of showing gaps, and that conversation is kind of epitomizing it, in that it's hard to pin it down to a single answer.